and for everyone on. This topic is units in good standing, and what we thought we'd do is just take 15 minutes to walk through what does it mean to have a unit in good standing. And again, I have several slides to get through, but these we'll share after the convention as well. So I'll try to hit the highlights. But again, if you have questions too, if I can't see the chat window, but if you can put them in the chat window, I'm sure someone can monitor that for me, and we can make sure that we get those answered as well, because that's what I'd prefer to do, is get the questions answered while we go through this as well. All right, so let's take a look. If my slides move, there we go. At all of the items it takes to be a unit in good standing. Here's the full list, and we're going to walk through each one of these. But as you can see, there's several different things, and a lot of the things that are on this list are also a requirement because we are a 501c. And so being a requirement with the IRS to file taxes in order to get your officer list published, those type of things, those are all because you are running a small little business, if you want to say. So we'll walk through this and again, ask questions as we go along. The first one, officer list. We ask that you get your officer list in place in Member Hub by May 15th as you're kind of closing out the year once you've elected your officers. If you have positions that are still left open, you can, temporarily put in somebody in for those, or put in the existing officers if you haven't voted in new officers yet. And the reason we're asking that from a state level is we need to submit that information into national PTA as well. And so this is key to make sure that your units are getting information, throughout the summer from state as well as national. And we want to make sure that we have the right information to communicate to your units, because I know it's hard when schools are closed in the summer to make sure people are getting the information, especially in that back to school timeframe. So again, officer lists, if you haven't updated yours lately, please put it as an action item for you to do today. Next up, membership dues. From September through April, you should be submitting membership dues monthly. If you happen to have a month that you have less than 5 new members, you can carry it over due to processing fees and have it, just submitted into the next month when you have that greater than 5. We do ask all membership dues have to be in by April 30th, and that's the end of the fiscal year. So again, you do it monthly, and there's membership training later in our agenda, and so we'll talk about that. Kristen and Jeff will, about how to submit things within membership or within Member Hub for your membership, as well as all the other compliance documents we walk through during this session. I kind of just put a breakdown of the money. $425 is what you're submitting, and part of it stays with North Dakota PTA and part of it goes to national. And so submitting to us, we just submit that forward onto national. So again, making sure we get that in timely, as well as, just a side note, depending on the number of members you register with North Dakota PTA and national, that also determines the number of votes you can have at this convention. So just an FYI. So I know Kristen was looking at all of that as we determine the number of votes a particular unit can have. So that comes into play as well. Insurance, really protecting your PTAs. And at a minimum, you must carry a general liability insurance. But there are several types of insurance you could carry. And I have seen people carry all these different types of insurances, I guess, over the years that I've been part of PTAs. General liability, again, just is covering in case somebody gets hurt during a PTA activity, those type of things, having that liability insurance in place. If you are making major decisions and want to protect your officers, you can carry the officer liability. Bonding, if you're dealing with lots of money. Social media is another good one to consider, especially nowadays, because we're posting everything out on Facebook electronically and not necessarily maybe getting signatures or disclosures for posting, those type of things, carrying those type of insurance. AIM insurance is typically who most people use for your PTAs, but again, you actually could purchase insurance from elsewhere outside of AIM insurance. But we ask that you put that proof of insurance up into Member Hub so we know that you are secured. And really, it's a good thing from a 501c, just protecting you as a unit. And all of those policies should be in place by October 15th. I'm going to stop there. Are there any questions in the chat window? Because I can't see it.
There are not.
Okay, thanks, guys. Next up, we're going to talk about some financial pieces. First off, financial review. And this is really comes into play as your old treasurer finishes up and your new treasurer goes into place. A financial review should take place. And it's really protecting you as a unit from if something were to happen like an IRS audit, right? Making sure that all your documentation is in place. People have reviewed the financial documents, whether it's checks, invoices, your monthly bank statements have been reviewed, all of those type of things are in place. And then there is a form that we have at the North Dakota PTA that we ask you to fill out during your financial review that says if things are in compliance, adjustments were made, those type of things, and get that submitted into Member Hub as well by October 15th. So again, just asking you to get review done so your old treasurer feels good about the way things were left, your new treasurer feels good because books have been reviewed, everything's coming on, and they're starting in a good position. And again, this is just helping us from a compliance standpoint that was done, you're financially healthy, and you're ready for the next step for the new year. The last bullet here talks about in your first meeting that you have, typically it would be your fall meeting for the local units, that you would say a financial review was done, here's the date, and that form is then submitted and being part of your meeting minutes moving forward as well. Again, just documenting that occurred, because again, if that's a question that a CPA would have, an IRS person would have, you have all that documented. And filing taxes, I know most people don't like to talk about taxes, but this one is pretty painless. I think most that have done it would agree. You actually can do it online. For most people, if you're under the 50,000 mark from a gross receipts, electronically, it takes you probably less than 5 minutes to file your taxes. But this is, again, a requirement to maintain our charitable status. That 501c, you have to file taxes. And the document will say it's the 5th month of the 15th of that month. So that's where the November 15th comes into play. But we actually ask you to upload this information, just proof that you've submitted your taxes by October 15th, so that we can scan to see which units have not, and if they need help filing those taxes. Because a lot of times it's one of the first things that a treasurer needs to do, and they're not sure how to go about it. And so we're here to assist and again, help you through that process. It doesn't take long to get signed up to do it electronically. If you're a unit greater than 50,000, then there's other options that we need to look at with you. But again, filing taxes, I know people go, ooh, but really it's pretty painless, and we can get you through that process. There's several of us here on the board that have been through it and would love to help you if you need help.
Cheryl, can I add in there that there is a YouTube video out on how to do this on our YouTube channel?
Absolutely, yes. And pretty painless, right, Kristen?
Mm-hmm.
And so are bylaws. I know people cringe when I use the word bylaws sometimes, but really just keeping your bylaws up to date. And as we walk through during our business meeting today is really about, what's currently going on in your organization and what's changing. And do your bylaws represent that? Because your bylaws, if you ask us a question at the state level, we may ask you back, what do your bylaws say? And to answer your questions. And so one of the things as a new officer comes into place, I'd recommend that you read your bylaws, because that tells you as an officer what you are accountable for and what you need to do. And so we ask all units to review their bylaws every 3 years to make sure they're up to date, as well as we may be pushing out changes that we're requiring each of the units to make as well. For example, the one that we talked about today, where it's the 2 signers on the checks. I know that those are in bylaws and local units, and people aren't doing that. And I get it, it's old, right? And so again, just making sure our bylaws reflect how we work as a unit and making sure that we get those changes made, approved by your memberships. And again, according to your bylaws, as well as the North Dakota PTA bylaw chair also needs to sign off on your changes as well. And again, uploading those documents into Member Hub. And the last thing we're going to talk about is training and just making sure that your officers are trained. And you might think, okay, I've been an officer for years, because you kind of heard that about some of us, but there are changes happening every year. I mean, just like Member Hub, right? Member Hub didn't exist, a few years ago, right? Or understanding how to upload, or where do you put those documents? Or, there's legal things that are changing, IRS things are changing, all of those type of things. So just staying up to date is really why we say you have to have training for your officers. And again, I think helping each of your officers be skilled and ready and knowledgeable of what they need to do for their for their position only helps them be more successful. And so again, that's what one is about. And we ask you to get that training in place by October 15th, or as soon as someone takes that role.
Cheryl, we have a question in the chat. Do the officers need to do training each year of their 2-year term?
Well, and we say, as you see here, it requires a majority of officers to complete training annually. And so it's not a bad thing for them to do it. If somebody is in for a 2-year term, I think understanding what the changes are within their role at the national and the North Dakota PTA, we would like everyone to at least review training yearly. Good question.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, because I think we'd all say there's changes to Member Hub going on at least quarterly. I know we were just talking about this last night of, every time we go out into Member Hub, there's changes going on, of where to find things, things that are working, aren't working. So again, just keeping up to date on those things, and all officers should know how to use Member Hub within their organization. Thanks, Lisa, for letting me know. So bringing all those together constitute a unit in good standing. And again, we need all of our units to be in good standing. We, as North Dakota PTA officers, actually commit to that, to national, that we'll work with our units to keep them in good standing. And really, we are here to help. I know some of those are maybe new to you, whether it's filing to the IRS, or how do I update my bylaws? What do I need to do to get these changed in our local units? Again, as an officer and board of directors, we are here to help get you into the right places, to get questions answered, as well as get all of our units in good standing. So if you have any questions as you go through this, you have a liaison that is assigned to each of your units, that they can be your first point of contact, and they could bring in any one of us to help you with any one of these bullet points. So at this point, I would say, is there anybody else on the board that wants to add comments?
I would simply say, if there are questions or concerns, or you're wondering what ifs, please feel free to reach out to us. We're here to help. We have found in the past that some people say, well, I'm not going to ask state. Please do ask state. We're here to help, and we want to answer those questions. We don't want to leave you hanging. So if we need to, if you'd like us to, we can walk you through these steps as well. So thank you.
And if you don't want to ask and call a state board member, you log into our Facebook group and ask a question to the community.
Yep, there you go too.
Good job. All right, well, thanks everyone for joining this session. We actually have a couple minutes as we switch over to the 10 o'clock.
Super. All right.